A new report suggests that AEW Rampage could be cancelled as part of the upcoming media rights agreement between AEW, Warner Bros. Discovery, and Fox. Speaking of Rampage, we have the ratings for Friday's show on TNT. We also have more details on the impending aforementioned media rights agreement between AEW and WBD. We also have the ratings for Saturday's edition of AEW Collision on TNT. CM Punk is going to be the special guest referee for the NXT Championship match on the premiere episode of NXT on the CW network in Chicago, Illinois. Speaking of NXT on the CW, Randy Orton will be competing in his hometown in St. Louis, Missouri on the second episode of NXT on the CW against NXT star Javon Evans. We have the ratings for Monday's edition of Raw on USA Network. Speaking of that St. Louis NXT episode on the CW, there's a big NXT Tag Team Championship match. Saturday night's main event is officially announced to be returning this December on NBC. Sheamus signs a new long-term contract with WWE. Plus, we have the ratings for SmackDown's return to USA Network for the season premiere episode last Friday. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with the future, or possibly lack thereof, of AEW Rampage. Now, while wrestling fans still wait for official confirmation that an agreement has been reached in regards to a new media rights deal, a recent report from John Urand in the Varsity newsletter indicated that a new deal between AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery could be announced in a matter of days and is a considerable increase compared to the 2019 deal. Although the announcement date remains uncertain, follow-up reports have indicated that the details in Urand's newsletter were similar to what they have also heard. Although the news is positive for fans and the promotion given the uncertainty over the past few months, one show is unlikely to be continuing when All Elite Wrestling enters the next phase of its media rights. Analyzing the report, Dave Meltzer noted that AEW content would air twice a week across 3 channels, meaning that True TV would likely be airing repeats. He said, quote, Urand's report was that AEW would air on TNT, TBS, and True TV twice a week. Now, if there are only 2 shows, Dynamite and Collision, and 3 stations listed, that would seem to indicate that True would get reruns or simulcasts. True is being rebranded as a sports station from 8 to 11 p.m. each night. Continuing, Meltzer added that because of the aforementioned show lineup, Rampage would not continue in the next phase, and the third show, likely called Shockwave, would be pitched to networks outside of the WBD umbrella. He said, quote, this would confirm what another source indicated to us this past week, that Rampage would not be continued, and that the third show, likely called AEW Shockwave, given AEW just filed for a trademark for that term, would be the show shopped around to Fox and likely others. Now, of course, when it comes to the history of AEW Rampage, first airing in August of 2021, the debut episode of Rampage saw Christian Cage defeat Kenny Omega to become the new Impact World Champion at the time. 1 week later, one of the biggest events in company history took place as CM Punk made his return to professional wrestling in front of a packed United Center in Chicago, Illinois for the first dance. While the show started out strong, subsequent weeks saw weaker lineups presented and were more often than not taped ahead of time. As such, the show has seen a sharp decline in ratings over the years and has been very much presented as the third show behind AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision. Now, speaking of the ratings for AEW Rampage, the Friday, September 13th episode of AEW Rampage averaged 250,000 viewers on TNT, which is up 7.3% from the previous week, which had AEW Collision, an episode of Collision, as the lead-in. It's the best audience total the show has done since August 23rd. Rampage finished 14th on the primetime cable charts with a 0.07 rating in the 18 to 49 demo. That's down 12.5% from last week and ties the lowest rating in Rampage's history in that category, regardless of the time slot. Now, the show went head-to-head with college football on Fox and ESPN, as well as a few minutes of SmackDown, which had a short overrun on USA Network for the premiere episode. As compared to the same week in 2023, Rampage was down 25.4% in overall viewers and down 22.2% in the 18 to 49 demographic. And we spoke about the media rights agreement between AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery, and we've got some more details and speculation regarding it. Of course, yesterday, the news that many wrestling fans have seemingly been waiting for appeared to leak a little bit early, with the report from Puck revealing that AEW's new TV rights deal with Warner Bros. Discovery looks set to be completed and possibly announced by next week. The new deal is believed to be for 3 years, with the option of a 4th year, with AEW expected to earn around $170 million a year, and their programming being featured twice a week on TNT, TBS, and True TV. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer attempted to answer some questions still lingering following the report in regards to AEW's presence on True TV. As we mentioned, Meltzer presumes that AEW will be airing there as part of an effort to rebrand the station into a more sports-orientated network. He was unclear on whether this meant new content would be airing on True TV, whether it meant AEW programming would be simulcast on the station while also airing on TBS and TNT, or if True TV will just be airing repeats and replays. Now, a big kind of part of this media rights agreement that is still quite unclear and was actually spoken about as possibly being separate to the media rights deal and possibly separate to the $170 million figure is the future of AEW pay-per-view, as many have expected the promotion to reach a deal with the streaming service Max, though Puck's report made no mention of it. Meltzer himself was unsure of whether a potential AEW/Max deal was included in this new deal, or, as I mentioned, if it would be a separate deal. While a separate deal would mean even more money for AEW, Meltzer noted that the $170 million figure, if it's included pay-per-views on Max, would still be a great increase for AEW. Finally, Meltzer touched upon rumored negotiations between AEW and Fox, which have surfaced ever since the promotion trademarked Shockwave for a potential TV show weeks ago, noting that Puck's report said AEW was negotiating with broadcast networks for a separate deal. Meltzer still believes AEW on Fox is a long shot, though he feels Fox Sports 1, FS1, could be in play, depending on the amount of money AEW has paid. However, Meltzer does believe something related to Shockwaves is in the work, as AEW wouldn't have filed a trademark for the show otherwise. Now, also, let's talk about the ratings for AEW Collision this past Saturday on TNT. AEW Collision has officially entered its toughest period of the year, with both college football and the NFL season now in full swing. That's something Collision learned the hard way last week when the program moved to Friday night and took a beating going against WWE SmackDown and the NFL. This past week, it was college football's turn to lay the beat down, even if things did improve for Collision in some degree. WrestleNomics and Programming Insider report that Saturday's Collision drew 268,000 total viewers and a 0.08 in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. Compared to last week's preempted show, ratings were up across the board, with total viewership up a whopping 71% from 151,000, while the 18 to 49 was up 100% from a 0.04. Still, the numbers represented the lowest total viewership number non-preempted in Collision history, as well as the second lowest 18 to 49. These numbers reflected against the 4-week average, with total viewership down 29%, while the 18 to 49 was down 33%. As noted, Collision struggles were due to college football, which dominated the day both on broadcast TV and cable. Despite the competition and the lower viewership, it wasn't all bad news, as Collision still managed to finish 7th in the 18 to 49 among Saturday primetime originals. Collision's marquee matches was a tag team contest between FTR and the Grizzled Young Veterans, a situation that has been brewing ever since the Grizzled Young Veterans attacked FTR following their AEW World Tag Team Championship defeat at AEW All In. Unfortunately for GYV, they were unable to get the big victory they were searching for, with FTR scoring the victory following a shatter machine on James Drake. Now, CM Punk, he's going to be the special guest referee when NXT premieres on the CW in Chicago for that big NXT Championship match. WWE Monday Night Raw superstar CM Punk is set to play a major role in the main event of NXT's debut on the CW network in his hometown of Chicago, Illinois on October 1st. The Second City Saint was announced as the special guest referee for the NXT Championship match that will pit Ethan Page against former champion Trick Williams. Punk named himself as the special guest referee for the match after Williams and Page attempted to sign their match contract for the second time on Tuesday night. General Manager Ava tried to have the men sign the document to open the show, but Page delivered an ego's edge to Williams through a table set up in the ring. Rather than signing, Therese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers, who made an appearance on SmackDown back in June, volunteered to get the contract signing done in a backstage segment with Ava, telling her he would take care of it. Halliburton got both Page and Williams to sign the contract before bringing out Punk. The fans started chanting referee at Punk, and he announced he would be taking up the position. He said the only rule for Williams and Page is that they must listen to the official, and since he was in charge, he said they could start fighting right now, leading to a pull-apart brawl in the ring. According to Fightful Select, Punk was backstage prior to the show on Tuesday and spoke to talent who approached him following his return to WWE at Survivor Series War Games last year. Punk has been making appearances backstage at NXT to mentor talent like NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez as well as Trick Williams. Now, speaking of NXT, Randy Orton, he's going to be featured on an upcoming CW Network episode of the show in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. At the top of this week's NXT, General Manager Ava made some announcements regarding the October 8th episode in St. Louis, Missouri. In addition to the return of rapper Sexy Red, Ava revealed that the Apex Predator and St. Louis native Randy Orton will not just be appearing on the show, he will be wrestling there. Following this development, Randy Orton confirmed that he will be competing against one of WWE NXT's brightest talents, Javon Evans. With the CW Network debut episode of NXT quickly filling up, Evans approached Ava backstage with a proposition, specifically one that would see him featured on the subsequent show in St. Louis 1 week later. Unbeknownst to Evans, he would soon be pitted in a match against Randy Orton. Quote, "Hey Javon, want to know who your opponent is?" Orton wrote on X, "See you in St. Louis on October 8th, kid." For Orton, this will mark only his second match in NXT, with his first airing on March 27th, 2013 against Damian Sandow. For Evans, this will arguably serve as one of the biggest matches of his career thus far. Now, going back to CM Punk, of course, he was on Monday Night Raw this week, and this past week's Raw witnessed a gradual increase in key demographic ratings and overall viewership, bouncing back from a low number for the September 9th edition of the show. WrestleNomics reports that the September 16th edition of the show garnered a total of 1.509 million viewers, which represents a 6% jump from the previous week. The 18 to 49 key demographic also saw growth when compared to the previous week, as it secured a 0.49 rating from the 0.45 the prior week. The show, however, experienced a decline in both overall viewership and key demographic ratings over the trailing 4-week average, dropping by 7% and 2% respectively. Programming Insider reported that the first hour of Raw earned the highest rating of the show at 0.53, while the next 2 hours had ratings of a 0.50 and a 0.43 respectively. The overall viewership started at a high of 1.618 million viewers for the first hour, followed by 1.541 million viewers and 1.367 million viewers for the following 2 hours. Raw saw an increase in viewership despite going against Monday Night Football, which featured a match between the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles, which raked in over 13.65 million viewers and a 4.01 in the key demographic. The report highlighted that the WWE show ranked number 1 in the 18-49 demographic when not considering the NFL game. Now, a big update here when it comes to a big NXT Tag Team title match that is also set for St. Louis, Missouri. Of course, that same episode that Randy Orton is going to be appearing on in his hometown. As the card for NXT in Chicago fills up, so does the one for St. Louis, Missouri. In the latest development, Nathan Frazer and Axiom are now slated to defend their NXT Tag Team Championships against a pair of SmackDown superstars, namely Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, on the St. Louis-based episode of NXT, which takes place on October 8th. Frazer and Axiom recently regained their NXT Tag Team Championships at No Mercy by defeating Chase U's Ridge Holland and Andre Chase. This outcome ultimately sparked Holland's turn on Chase U as he attacked Chase, Duke Hudson, and Riley Osborne in the title match's aftermath. Nevertheless, Chase U's loss marked the beginning of Frazer and Axiom's second reign with their respective titles. Before they go head-to-head with Waller and Theory, though, Frazer and Axiom will become face-to-face with them on a special episode of the Grayson Waller Effect scheduled for next week's episode of NXT in Orlando. Now, this is quite an interesting story here when it comes to possible big contract extensions, namely one being Sheamus. Now, Sheamus has signed a new long-term contract with WWE, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. Sheamus has re-signed with WWE, according to sources confirming that news to Fightful. Originally, Sheamus' contract was set to be up earlier this year, but was extended due to injury time. However, the new deal is a multi-year deal in length. More details are set to come out soon regarding that. On top of that, look, looks like WWE is set to try and pin down and sign several new talents to the long-term contracts already in WWE. For all intents and purposes, 2024 has been the year of jumps, with wrestlers going from WWE to AEW and vice versa. It doesn't appear the bidding wars between AEW and WWE will be dying out either, with AEW seemingly poised to come into more money if reports regarding this new TV rights deal with Warner Bros. Discovery are true. That deal may be a big reason that WWE is now looking to lock in some key talents. PW Insider is reporting that WWE has recently approached Rhea Ripley, WWE Women's Champion, World Champion Liv Morgan, and Women's Champion Nia Jax about signing new long-term contract extensions. Other unnamed talents have also been approached regarding this, with it being said that this is occurring even with talents that currently have plenty of time left on their WWE contracts, as WWE has become more aggressive in locking in talent. So if we get any more details regarding that, of course, we'll let you know in an upcoming video. Now, Saturday night's main event is returning. We all knew this was going to be the case anyway, but now it is official. WWE Saturday night's main event is making another comeback. The company announced the return of the iconic show for later this year, with the special airing simultaneously on NBC and Peacock on December 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern. For those interested in attending, Saturday night's main event will take place at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum on Long Island, New York, with tickets available to the public on Friday and pre-sale beginning today. These specials will continue airing quarterly as part of WWE's latest media rights deal with NBC Universal, which was signed last year and went into effect earlier this month. In addition to the return of Saturday night's main event, the deal ensured SmackDown made the move back to USA Network after a stretch on Fox. Now, the news confirms a report from earlier in the month that suggested WWE was bringing back Saturday night's main event for the previously detailed NBC primetime special. The company first introduced the show back in 1985 with a series of occasional events that aired on the network until 1992. These shows sometimes are offered major moments to capitalize on all the extra exposure from broadcast television and often featured Hulk Hogan wrestling in the main event. More recently, the promotion revived the branding in 2022 with a series of Saturday night's main event shows that's scheduled during the spring. However, unlike the previous iterations, those were not televised. The last televised revival took place from 2006 through 2008 with a series of 5 hour-long specials that also aired on NBC. And finally, speaking of the new deal with NBC Universal that brought SmackDown back to USA Network, we have the ratings for the season premiere episode. Of course, it's a brand new era for SmackDown this past Friday night as the blue brand moved back to USA Network after spending the last 5 years on Fox. Plenty of changes were expected, including the ratings, with most believing the show would decline from drawing in the low 2 million range on Fox. For night one, however, SmackDown was almost equal, and in one case better than their last showing on Fox. WrestleNomics reports that SmackDown's USA Network premiere drew 1.723 million total viewers, along with a 0.55 in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. Compared to their final week on Fox, total viewership was down only slightly, dropping 3% from 1.770 million. Meanwhile, the 18 to 49 saw a decent gain, with the demo rising 22% from last week's 0.45. The ratings followed similar trends against the 4-week average, with total viewership down 15% from 2.032 million, while the 18 to 49 was up 2% from a 0.54. And one advantage SmackDown's debut on USA had over their final Fox show was the lack of competition, as SmackDown's Fox Swan Song featured the blue brand going up against the NFL, which resulted in lower than usual numbers for both SmackDown and AEW Collision. Regardless, questions will now turn towards whether SmackDown can keep the momentum of their USA debut, or if we'll see the show decline as the weeks go on. As one would expect, SmackDown was a loaded event, with the show kicking off with Cody Rhodes retaining the undisputed WWE Championship against Solo Sikoa inside of a steel cage. A post-match brawl featuring Rhodes, Sikoa, the Bloodline, and a returning Roman Reigns would eventually lead the show closing angle, where Reigns and Rhodes agreed to partner up to face Sikoa and Jacob Fatu in a tag team match at Bad Blood. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.